Hello. Hi. So, the last topic that I want to cover before we go into database design is the concept of single responsibility principle. Now, what single responsibilities principle states is that in your code, for each class that you create in a structured code, the each class you create should be responsible for one thing only. And this one thing is obviously an entity in the real world. Okay. Now, if we take the idea of a banking system, and let's say we have a bank, the bank will have a branch, multiple branches obviously, and each branch there will be account, and each account will be opened by a person, right? Now let's say for that these are the independent properties, right? This is dependent on this thing, and this is dependent on this thing. In that way, this is a many to many relation, okay, and this is a one to many relation. All right. Now let's say I created a person class, and I have these properties, public properties over here. I want to make bank accounts. A person could have multiple bank accounts. Then I just do a list. Let's say BA and BAs, that is bank accounts. I create a list for that. Now this bank account should be another class of its own, right? Bank accounts like that, which would have its own thing like IFSC code. If not, okay, wait, not IFSC code here. I think it should be just account number, name, balance, maybe, etc. Okay. Then if we have bank accounts, a bank account will be open in a bank branch only, right? So let's say we have a bank branch where we will have IFSC code, we will have a name, we will have address, etc. And this will be connected to, again as we saw, a bank which will have ID, name, phone, etc. Like details like that. This is needed for this is needed for this, and this is needed for this. Okay. Now the idea that I had was to take these connections that you see over here, these things, into the database. Now in the database, obviously, when you start building a database, right, you will always you will always assume to go in a unstructured way, where let's say everyone will teach you normalization like this, right? Anywhere you go, you have let's say this is a table, right? And you will have fields, but let's say, let me define it like this, actually, that it will be better. So you have field, like we have person ID, name, address, phone, and you have account number, 1, 2, 3, etc. Then you have bank details, name, IFSC code, and they will tell you, okay, this is not needed over here because it's repeating. This is not needed over here because there could be multiple accounts. So you create new tables. Now, if you understand it, this whole idea from the perspective of the single responsibility principle, where it simply states that each class should have its own responsibility, right? Replace class with tables, okay, and replace class with tables or relations as well. You can do, right? Then the rows would be your objects, right? Objects. Rows would be your objects. If you think of this in mind, then you can just create a table. Let's say I want to create another, if not banking system now, because that will be too easy, we just talked about it, right? Let's say there's a talk about doctor or a hospital system, right? Let's say we have a doctor table, right? We have a resident working under the doctor, resident. Now these both will be working under a department, obviously, right? They both be working under department. Resident will be looking after, let's say there'll be patients, right, which the doctor is looking after, right? And let's say the residents, patients, now there is some billing that patient has to do and something like that. Now you understand, like, if you are a coding person, if you do make solutions and structures, let's say, then this is easy for you to make this kind of structure in your code class, in your code. Now This idea came to me from the perspective of ORMs as well. How I use C sharp, by the way. So how entity framework, you just have to make the same classes as the table in the DB, right? Then still, somehow, even if people are able to do this relation, they are not able to create a design a database at all. It's very hard for them to do so. Then single responsibility principle, you uh, take the class as table or the relation. Okay, so if we talk about this, or let's say if we talk about the banking system, then the banking system would be, there'll be a table called bank, which will have a relation has with a weak entity, right? This is a total participation, a weak entity, that is branch, right? Now branch will have a relation, let's say account, right, which will have its own table, and this will be connected to person, which will be a strong entity. This will be a relation, I think you can show it a dotted, I think. What kind of relation is this? I do not remember. Right now these both need total participation, obviously. You can also do it like this. Okay, we can make cardinality is very much better than showing these things sometimes, because it gives you a better understanding of what you're doing. Okay, and you can have the relation here like accounts यहाँ पे you can have has as a relation, right? Now if you talk about this thing over here, so we can just make, okay, we have a doctor table, right, that is uh, under, let's say, department. Oh, that's not a relation actually. This is under a department. Okay, now in the same way you have a residence, right, which works under a doctor. Okay, and which works with a department. Okay, department will have patients. Okay, the patient pays or has or anything like that a bill, right? Now that administration department will be under here only. I don't have to do anything over there. Let's say there are cashiers which cashes the bill and stuff like that. You can, now you know, all you have to do is make tables for these things. Department, right? Let me do use a different color for that. You have to make patients for tables for department, doctor department, resident. You have to make a table for this thing, right? You have to make a table for patients, for bill, for a patient could be working with multiple departments, right? This will be a total participation. You'll have to make something here for this thing. That is how you can use the single responsibility principle for your benefit to create classes. From the classes, maybe you can create the database itself, or directly you can, if you have enough understanding of how this would work, and basic concepts of relations in DB, you can just directly put the single responsibility principle at use with the database design, and you can forget about normalization. You don't have to think that, okay, this data is not normalized, you have to now make an unstructured one, then you can have to make a structured one. No, think about how this concept would work for you. So you would use, or you would, even if you don't know how normalization works a lot better, you can make your database design very good. So but that was the video, guys. If you have any questions, any queries, just let me know. If you have any other topics that you want me to cover, any other things that you want me to cover, just let me know, and find out, see how this helps you in database designing of your own. If you have any questions according to this, regarding this, let me know so we can answer it, we can discuss, we can find things out ourselves. All right, talk to you later.